Don't go back down at all, you're going to catch your bumper. My way more. More this way.
Right then, this is a long overdue video. It's Amarok front locking diff, which we've had this in pipeline for months now. Just as everything goes, I haven't had time to do it and it's been getting put on back burner. So the E-Locker, this is the same E-Locker we fitted in Ryan's V10 Touareg. That's had plenty of road testing now, plenty of abuse. We know it works well.
Centre rear arm. Diff on.
So we're now looking to put one of these into the Amarok front diff. Amarok front diff, very similar to Q7, Touareg, KN. So we know it'll work with a little bit of modification. Initially, research-wise, we looked at the self-study program, got some details from there, and I've also purchased a couple of diffs, the two diffs that I could get hold of that are available in this country, basically. From the research I've done, I initially found two diff ratios, a 4.1 and a 4.3, but when I open these up, I've got a 4.1 and a 3.7. Did a little bit more digging. It looks like the 4.1 is for the non-permanent four-wheel drive, so like your 2 litre and 3 litre manual Amaroks. The 3.7 is from like your 2 litre and 3 litre autos. From a bit more digging, I found the single cab came with the 4.3. Obviously, you can't get single cabs in UK, despite there being one right there. Yeah, we can't get single cabs in UK. We had to import that from Australia. I believe they're the only ones that came with a 4.3 front diff. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, comment below. If anybody's got a 4.3 front diff and they want to send me it, please do. Or if they've got a vehicle, a single cab, manual, non-permanent four-wheel drive, send me VIN so I can do some more digging on part numbers and I'll be able to get to the bottom of that. But for now, because these are only ones we get in the UK, we're focusing on these, and I've got somebody who wants an auto one and I want to put the manual in our manual Amarok. It's worth us doing two at once. So the boarding bit, you can probably, if you're not interested in the internal side of things, just skip this. Adam will put a marker in. Hopefully we'll have some footage of it fitted in our truck and doing crazy things. If you want to stay for boarding bit, I'll go into a bit more detail now. So as you can see, the E-Locker, that's designed to be bolted to the ring gear. You've got all your bolt holes there, and you'd usually take your ring gear off your diff, fit it in there. Your ring gear would have holes in it and bolt up. Obviously you can see with this that's not going to happen because there's no holes in there. So we had a similar issue when we installed this on the Touareg. We found a couple of differences in the front diffs between the KNs, Q7s and Touaregs. Some did have a bolt on ring gear, that makes it straightforward. Obviously some are welded like this. So the process we have to go down, as this one's already been done, stick that in a lathe, do it with a grinder if you want to be a bit rough, part that off and split the ring gear from the original diff. Before doing that, you obviously want to take some measurements to make sure that you get the ring gear on the locker in an almost identical position if you can. So what we're going to do now is, I've got the other diff here from the manual. We're going to pull this bearing off, and we've got a farrow arm upstairs. We're going to take some measurements with a farrow arm from the race, the bottom of the diff where the bearing sits on, to the top of the ring gear. So when we split this, we can replicate that measurement from there to there on the locker. Obviously the other problem, we're going to have roughly, we've got like 9mm gap there, so we are going to have to also machine a spacer to go between. And the other issue, we've not got a massive amount of material to work with on the ring gear. So we are going to, these are case hardened, and we're going to have to drill and tap into that. If you look back at the Touareg, Adam will probably be able to dig out some footage. I was a little bit concerned about the lack of thread engagement on the Touareg. That has left us with a little bit less thread engagement than we'd like, but we've not really got any other option, because I don't want to tap that any deeper. Otherwise we'll start breaking through and causing even more problems. But like I say, that's had plenty of abuse and it's worked, so we're confident it's going to work well for these two. So I think we'll go and measure up on this, pull that bearing off and measure up. A bit more progress. So since we left off, we measured the ring gear and the original diff to figure out what spacer we needed for the Harrop diff. So we've now got the spacer. The ring gear has been machined, drilled and tapped. That's how original looks once it's been machined off. That's obviously drilled and tapped version. We just need to now fit the spacer and ring gear onto here. We've also had some bolts made to the correct length. They're 12.9 tensile strength. To fit that onto there, it is a press fit. But what I'm going to do is just use some studs on the ring gear, put that on, put it on like that, and then I'll pull it down on some nuts so it all pulls down evenly and nice and snug. I also mentioned in a previous video, because there's no easy way to check backlash without refitting the housing, I mentioned about getting some caps made so we can check the backlash. What I've actually done, we bought another diff, managed to pick a diff up on eBay for 40 quid, so it wasn't even worth messing about. Cut it up, and then we'll just use these caps on there to check backlash once we've got it all built up. And the only other thing we've got to worry about, standard housing, breather usually comes out of there, it has that little cap on. I'm going to modify that slightly for a different breather. Just going to use some push to connect fittings for the breather, and we'll also make a little hole in there for the wiring and the grommet there to fit in. So I'm going to get cracking with this now, probably set up a time lapse, and hopefully we'll get it built up and ready to fit. Might have it in tomorrow, let's see. So this is moment of truth. This will determine what we need to do with the shims in the diff. Got the measurements from original. Critical factor really is from that plane to the top of the ring gear. So it should be 39mm. We'll see what it is.
Or 38.55.
0.5 out. Yeah. 0.45. Continuing on from yesterday, diff's built up, ready to go in the housing. We've got a few bits here ready to build it. We worked out yesterday the ring gear was sitting 0.4mm higher than the original, so we can accommodate for that in the shims. Kept the original shims, so it's just a case of measuring them, which that's 1.9mm, and I've got a couple of others and we've got 2.3mm there. So look out for that difference on the shims. I'm now going to get the new bearings pressed onto the diff, and then we'll get it built up and check the backlash with the cups we made. Check the backlash on the original so we can set it up identical to that. So I'll get cracking on with it. Right, we're all sorted. Not too bad to get it back together. It did help that we measured everything up on Faro arm, made shimming it a lot easier. So everything's torqued up, got our drilled the casing for the breather port and the wiring, that's all sealed up. The only thing we've got left to do is push this bush out and fit the diff drop bush that goes in place of that. And I'm going to see if I can get it fitted either tonight or tomorrow morning, because these are pay and play at Parkwood this weekend, so if we can get there for a little bit of testing, it'd be good. We've also powered it up with the jump pack as well, just to make sure it does work as expected and it's all good. So drive it now, see if we can break it. Right, we got that diff finished this afternoon, so it's probably about 6:30 Friday night. As I mentioned, Parkwood's open on Sunday, so I'm going to try and get the diff ripped out tonight. Maybe other one put back in, depends what time it is. I don't want to be here too late, so let's see how we get on. So I've seen a few people ask on Facebook groups and forums how you get the front prop off. You can just do it with a pry bar, but I found if you get a little ratchet strap, it keeps the centre sleeve compressed and it just helps it pop off that little bit easier. And while I'm also in it, if there's one thing you do to your Amarok, the steering rack bushes. If you can see that, got standard bushes on these. You can see how much that rack's moving. Got a set of Super Pro Powerflex bushes in there. Makes it 10 times better. Right, it's 8:30, I'm going to call it a night. As you can see there, the diff is out. Came out relatively easily, about an hour and a half, just steady away. Just talk you through a few little bits that I did try to keep as much of the vehicle intact as possible, just in case we have to do this like at a pay and play or on a trail somewhere. I thought I'd see what's involved, and worst case, if we need to swap it out, we might be able to do it, but whatever we do, it's a different story. So, as I mentioned, the rack bushers, we've unbolted that, we're going to swap them out because you can already see that one's dropping to bits, and it just improves things tenfold. As you can see there, I took that bottom arm bolt out. Probably say why didn't you just undo it at the top, but this is because you access one of the diff bolts in there. So it's like, why take the top one off if I can just do that one? So that gives you a little bit more clearance to pull the drive shafts out to get the diff down. Other than that, it's pretty much all gone to plan, so I'm going to go home now, come back tomorrow morning, we'll get the other one bolted in, and hopefully we can get it driving tomorrow afternoon, see how it goes. Right, as I mentioned last night on GoPro, steering rack bushers are horrendous. Fitted Powerflex bushers on this one. We have got Super Pro as well, so you can take your pick. And I think you could see before there was a lot of movement in that rack now. There's literally nothing. So all good, it's time to get diff in now. Right, diff's installed. Quickly wire it up just to test it again. So what we'll do, put it in low range, so centre locked. Make sure front and rear open diffs are working. Lock the rear, make sure rear lock is working, then lock the front and make sure that's working properly. Paul's sat in it, so he's going to fire it up and see how it works. So I can stop that wheel, other wheel's still spinning at other side, and same up front. So I can stop that, other side still spinning. Open diff front and rear. press rear locker now. Rear should be locked now. I can try and stop this, but I won't be able to. No stopping that now. If I try and stop this, no front office system game. No stopping that now. Pull him up. Put that off. Right, lock it out. Yeah, back to open. So, working like a tree.